Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's Footprints webinar series. As usual, my name is Nick with RGR Innovations here, and I have today with me Layla, one of my support analysts, who will be co-presenting with me one of the topics on today's session. Today we'll be covering best practices around business rule naming, ordering, form design, and an introduction to the HTML code control form control that you can put on your forms. As usual, I'm with RGR Innovations. We're a BMC partner founded in 2004, specializing in ITSM, ITAM, CLM, and we are available for implementations from A to Z, from design, configuration, support, post go live. Last time on session 9 in July, we covered an overview of the latest version of Footprints. We did our second part on business rules as quick templates and quick descriptions, along with some examples to show you how the rules were configured, and talked about field dependencies versus hiding with business rules. That recording is available at rgrinnovations.com/webinars. So I know we've got, a mixture of some of our own clients on the line, as well as other Footprints admins. I don't remember if I mentioned it on the webinar last month. I've essentially been out of the office for the past 5 months, so I've had very little time to sort of prepare last month's webinar and this one here. So unfortunately, for next time, I haven't come up with a plan yet. There will be one, rest assured, and it will be awesome. I just don't have specifics at this time. In a couple of weeks, when we send out the invite for session 11, I will have the set schedules there. I know one of the topics I do want to cover are SLAs. I've been pushing that one back, unfortunately, a few times, so I definitely want to talk about that one. There's a couple other things I want to talk about as well. So I will have a more set schedule for the next session in the next little bit. Okay, so on to presenting for this one. When you have your business rules, depending on the container you have, so right now I'm, for this example, using the service desk incident item, part of the Footprints Advanced Starter template. And if you just look at sort of the rule numbers here, you can see we have over 100 business rules out of the box in this container. Now, depending on your container, you may have something with roughly the same amount of rules. You could easily have something with more rules. You could also have something with far fewer rules. The impacts of best practices for naming and ordering really starts to show off the more rules you have rather than the few rules you have. So let's start with names. So the first thing with names is I like to keep things as short as possible. So avoid filler words like, let's say, this one here, created from change request. I didn't say created from a change request. You don't care about proper grammar and sentence structure here. You really just want it to be bullet point to the point. Created from change request. Now, if I wanted to, I could have even shortened this further. Created from change, created from CR, or something like that, right? But you want to keep your names short. You also want to use common terminology. So for example, it's always created from. I don't mix, different kind of words. If I were to scroll down to my notifications, right? Any rule that sends out an email, I always start with the word notify. And then who am I notifying and when? Notify the primary assignee and create. Notify the primary assignee on update. Now, of course, I have two separate rules here because I need two different actions because I'm using two different email templates. But you can see the names are always very similar, structured the same, and easy to read. If I have a business rule that is setting a field value, set follow-up to, set status, set. So try to use kind of common terminology like that and common ordering of words to keep things simple for you to read. Now, of course, sometimes, let's say, I don't know, set follow-up. That alone doesn't tell me enough of what the rule does. So for more context, I use the description field. So if I were to open up this rule, I can see that in the description, now I have more information as to exactly what the rule does, right? We don't want the rule name to be so convoluted that, hey, if I'm just looking at the system for the first time, I'll understand completely what it is, right? Rule name should really be meant for you guys as administrators who are in the system, maybe not necessarily daily, but you're in the system daily, you built the system or helped build the system, you know exactly what things go. So you just need like checklist names up here to remind you what it is, as opposed to the full description. That's really what this is for down over here. So that helps keeps our names simple and short and sweet. In terms of ordering your rules, so the first thing is going to be rule orders for on-screen rules. For the most part, doesn't matter. After save rules, though, is where it does matter. If I have a rule here that creates something and fills in some information into the ticket, I want these rules to fire before the relevant notification rules would fire to send out an email, right? Because I don't want to send out an email with fields that haven't been filled out yet, because the business rule to fill out those fields fired afterwards. So there's going to be some ordering that has to happen in that regard. So that's why now it's not exactly at the end, but my notification rules are closer to the bottom of my list than the top, right? You can see all these notify ones here. Beyond that, I do try to group rules that have similar purposes at the same place. So all of these ones over here, which are used with my link action feature. So for example, if I go into an incident here, I have a link action. I might talk about this in a separate video, because it is so much better than just going down to your related tickets and doing, create to, new problem or something like that. Is I just come up here and I say, from an incident, I want to create a problem or a change or a service, et cetera, right? So the relevant business rules for this are all grouped together, even though they don't necessarily need to be. They're all grouped together in the list here, so that as I go up and down this list, they're easy to find, right? They're all there. Same thing, like here's the one for the broadcasts. You saw like setting priority, right? All the set priority ones are all grouped together as well. So those are really kind of the two things I could say, keeping your name short, putting additional information into your description, using common terminology, and then grouping your rules together, both based on similar function, but also making sure that your ordering is set properly. So usually you'll always want your notification rules either at or near the bottom. Now, maybe it's a little bit of a bonus topic on this one here. You'll notice I have some business rules that are in workflows. When a rule is in a workflow, it has its own separate ordering. And that ordering is based off of, where it sits in the workflow. So you can see 4 rules over here, 6 rules over here. And although you can't really see it, there's some rules on the group here as well, which is what shows up down over here. So these rules here will have their own order independent from the main list, but all of the same, best practices and all that still applies over here. Another little bonus discussion here, just because I have one over here, not active. So generally speaking, all your rules are going to be active. You might disable a rule temporarily, permanently, hey, this rule is not active because I'm not ready to make it active yet. We're still testing or designing or something like that. So I'll leave it not active because it's not ready. Or it's, we don't need this rule anymore, but I don't want to delete it yet. Let me inactivate it. And that's perfectly fine. That's how you should do it, right? If ever you do find a rule that you don't need anymore, definitely don't delete it outright. Make it inactive. Keep it there for a couple days, couple weeks. And then when you're satisfied that it is no longer used, then do make sure you do delete it, right? You want to avoid a scenario where you might have 100 business rules here and 37 of them are not active. what's the point of keeping those rules around other than just cluttering up and making your administration more convoluted? So definitely, keep them around for a certain time, but then once you're sure you don't need them anymore, blow them away. All right, similar topic related to form design. So I'm going to pull up a few examples here. The main thing here is keeping things consistent from one form to the next in terms of what fields you have on the form, where those fields are placed, and to a certain extent, maybe like the values of those fields. So for example, maybe a status list or impact urgency priority matrix. So I'm going to pull up a couple examples here. Here's my incident agent web form. You can see, I have the record number, the short description, an external ticket number, link action. Then I have things like, the type, the source, the status, the categorization, the priority, the assignment information. If I were to go to, let's say, change control, let's go into change request and pull up that form. Now, there's going to be some differences. There has to be. This is a different process. But you'll see, if I go from one to the next, the first row is almost identical, right? The second row, a little bit the same as well, right? You still have fields in the same place. So doing that keeps the interface familiar to your users. Now, this is mostly your agent users, right? Your end users, odds are they're only working with like one form, the incident customer form, maybe the incident self-service service request form. But of course, your agents, incident, change, problem, service request, other processes that you may have. If your fields are constantly in different places and your form sections are different lengths and things like that, it just makes it harder for them to sort of, remember where things are. So as I jump through these two, you can see things are very, very similar here. And same thing if I were to go, although I can't show it in the same, actually, let's go here. Let's go to HR. So if I go to my HR form, again, things are relatively in the same place. So that's probably the biggest suggestion I could give you there when it comes to designing your forms. And the same is true for the customer forms as well, right? Keep things in the same place. Now, in terms of fields, and this is more for the customer form, I'm going to pull it up here. You want to have the forms, you want to have the fields on the form only what is necessary, right? So now, although I have some extra fields here and lots of gaps, the main thing to understand here is, I'm in the form designer. So for example, these three fields over here are hidden, right? So I need them on the form for business logic purposes, but the end user never sees them. So this whole row disappears. Then I have these two over here. I have like the sort of what I call the IT impact and urgency, right? It's got the IT terminology to them. And then I have what I like to call the plain old English equivalent fields. So these are the fields I display in self-service. So if they were to log into self-service, they would see these ones here that then translates to these ones which are hidden. But for example, I don't have, let's say, category field on my form. If I'm not going to be doing ticket routing based on category for self-service, don't put the category field on the form, because why give them an extra field to fill out if it's not really going to serve a purpose? You could almost say the same thing with the short description field, right? If all you want them to do is put something into the description field, which in this case I've renamed public notes. If you only want them to put something into the description field, you could even hide or get rid of the short description. Keeping your form as simple as possible is paramount, especially for the customer users, for the agent users as well, right? You want to do away with having fields that don't really have an impact to the way you use the system. If you're not reporting on that field, if you're not using business logic on that field, if you're not using that field for the nature of the work that you're doing, do you need that field on the form? All of this is all of this information, the form best practices, the rule best practices, obviously very important when you're doing your design, should also be fairly important when you're reviewing, right? Once you've built your system, all of you guys probably have your systems already built and been using it for months, if not years. at some point, once a year, twice a year, you should be reviewing your system, right? That one part of ITIL that we all tend to forget, the continual improvement part, right? Of reevaluating our system, making sure it still meets our needs, right? How can we improve things? How can we build things better? That's where this kind of comes in. Okay, so I've covered these two topics. I'm going to switch it over to our final topic of the day, which is the form control custom code HTML control that Layla will be introducing. So we will be showing you how this control works. It's built into FootPrints. You can use it today. Some of you guys might be using it already. You can use it to write your own HTML or JavaScript. I would have to point out that although, it's built into FootPrints and all that, of course, the code that you put in there is not, that's up to you guys to design and support. But we'll show you a couple of examples of what you could do with those codes, including our final example. We have about 3 examples to show you. And our final one is a little bit the pièce de résistance. It is an alpha development, right? So it's not something that's ready for consumption, but we're still working through it. And once it is final, we will we'll put an update to the presentation, in one of our future sessions for that. And it'll also become sort of standard within the FootPrints Advanced Starter template in a similar way to how we presented portal customizations a couple months ago. So with that, I will hand it off to Layla.
So hi guys, my name is Lila. I've been working for RGR Innovations for over a year. So form control is type of customer code control is type of form control that you can insert HTML code or JavaScript code to your agent web form or your customer web form. It's in the list of form control here. To give you a quick demo of this, I'm just gonna put anywhere I want. And let's say I want FootPrints to prompt hello RGR when open a ticket. You will set the language you will use here. In this example, I'm using JavaScript. So, and I will copy my code into here and save and publish this workspace. Due to timing issue, I have published this workspace item before. So now let's just log in as an agent and see the results. I can open any ticket, and the moment I open a ticket, it will prompt this message, hello RGR. So that's a quick demo here. So now let's jump to the first example of using the JavaScript. When I open this ticket, the first thing you're gonna see is this ticket is in escalation and notification status. For this, so every time I change the status of a ticket, it will also change the color of the boxes. So it will help you to easily indicate the status of this ticket without going further to looking for the field status. The second example is that the JavaScript could also change the color of a text and also set this field to be blank. For example, if the priority equal 1, I want this field to be like flash red, so it will provide more visual impact on the form. And last but not least, I developed a search engine for end users. So typically when end user log into FootPrints and they want to submit instant, and also they want to browse in for knowledge article, they need to go to knowledge base, browse into the category and looking for the knowledge article that might helpful to them. So that's quite a lot of steps to do. So with that JavaScript customer code control, when they're submitting a ticket, within typing in the short description field, for example, my VPN is not working. Here we go. I got a list of possible solutions that might help them while they're trying to submit this ticket. For example, if this one is a knowledge article I'm looking for, I open that one, it opens in a new browser tab, and here is the resolution I probably be looking for. And this could be anything. So for example, if this person got a VPN problem and email problem, it will show both of the knowledge article that is related with that, because my table, here we go, I got the correct possible solution showed up here. So, and with this customer code control, there's no modification needed for the JavaScript code. All you need is add that customer code control to your customer web form, save and publish the workspace add-on, and it's ready to go. Every time when user types something in the short description, it opens to the new browser tab. And also for the previous 3 examples, you can change the appearance of your code. You can change the box size, for example. If you want to change the font size, font color, the background color when you mouse over it, everything is customizable.
Perfect. All right. So thank you, Layla. So hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of an appetite as to what things are possible with code control. So like I mentioned in the beginning, you know, the code control itself and some of the functionality that you do is, you know, it's built into FootPrints. It's fully supported. It persists through upgrades. It's not customization. It is configuration. But the code that you do put into that code control, you know, that one you're kind of on your own to develop. So you know, if you have an in-house JavaScript HTML developer, you can leverage their knowledge for that. Of course, you know, you can either work through a BMC partner, whether that's ourselves or some of the other partners out there to help develop some of that functionality. But hopefully it gives you an idea of like some of the cool things that you can do with these code controls. So like I said, you know, some of these, like the possible solutions one is something that's still, you know, I'm calling it still an alpha release. We're still working out some, you know, design with it, but the hope is to eventually bring it into the FootPrints Advanced Starter template. And of course, from there, you know, being able to be packaged just as a standalone offering. But like I said, you know, if you've got your own, you know, developers in-house, you can, like, sky's the limit essentially. If you can think of something, you can probably achieve it. As usual, you know, at the end of these sessions here, you'll receive the survey. If ever there's, you know, questions that you have as to what's possible or what's not possible, feel free to put a note there. Or, you know, if I go back to our contact us here at the very beginning, where am I going? I'm going over here, back over here. Feel free to send me an email, you know, if you've got like, hey, you know, could we do something like this or whatever the case. We're pretty much at the end of the presentation at this point. We'll keep the presentation open for a few minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them out in chat. We'll get to them. And then if not, thank you for participating and have a great rest of your day.